Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm happy to talk to you today, so I'm glad you're joining us. I'm glad to be able to join you. As mentioned, I'm a Christian woman. I'm in the Division of Graduate Education and Directorate of STEM Education at NSF. I primarily work with full programs. I work a little bit with the career program, but you'll hear more about that later. I work with the Racial Equity and STEM Education program. I work with the Dear Colleague letter for supplemental funding for space-related preparation and awareness for career equity. But today I'm here to talk to you about the Graduate Research Fellowship Program. So GRFP has been around since 1952. It is NSF's oldest program. We have over 70,000 fellowships. So 40 plus fellows have gone on to become Nobel laureates. We have fellows from within every state. There are over 40 fellows who have become members of the National Academy, and countless other fellows that are going on to do some tremendous things. This fellowship is open to individuals pursuing research-based master's and doctoral degree programs and eligible fields of study. And those eligible fields of study are those supported by. It's important to note that within those major eligible fields of study, there are very many subfields. To get a comprehensive list of those, we can see our solicitation. So some things about the competition. We get over 12,000 applications and we get out over 12,000 offers. Per our competition, we have over 500 institutions represented. The funding for the fellowship is 3 years of support, but that's a $37,000 annual stipend and $12,000 cost of education allowance. The fellowship is a 5-year period, which gives the fellows some flexibility. And there is no postgraduate service requirement. Recommendations that we give fellows and those that support fellows is to make sure that fellows submit, or applicants, I should say. We hope that they can all be fellows, but in the beginning, you're an applicant to submit early. To get more information, applicants and those supporting those applicants can go to nsfgrp.org. On that website, there's a decision tree that helps you determine eligibility. And there's some information to be able to properly format your application for applicants to format their applications, because they can't exactly submit their application if it's not format compliant. So why am I talking to you today? Is because these applicants need you. They need you as mentors to suggest the program, to comment on students' application packages, so that when they submit their packages, they have more solid application packages, and to provide them opportunities for research before and even after if they get the fellowship, and to help introduce them to some opportunities for intellectual merit building and broader impacts. They need use reference letter writers to support the application package, to say those things on those reference letters that they may forget to say, to provide information to reviewers through those reference letters to support their application, and to adjust their potential for achievements. They need you as reviewers, because reviewers give voice to those upcoming scholars in your fields. We have 2 goals for GRFP. So the overall goal for GRFP is to recruit individuals in STEM. We want to selectively recognize and, of course, financially support those individuals who have demonstrated the potential to be high achieving early in their careers. Also, the other goal is to broaden participation in STEM. A little bit about the application. To be eligible, applicants must be U.S. citizens, nationals, or permanent residents early in their career. There's early undergrad and grad students. Again, as I mentioned, pursuing those research-based master's and doctoral degrees in STEM and in STEM education. It's to commit to full-time enrollment in graduate degree programs at accredited nonprofit U.S. institutions. Unfortunately, we can't support foreign institutions. There are 4 levels, and for GRFP, there's level 1 and level 4. As long as an applicant is a level 1 or a level 4, they can apply as many times as they stay in those categories. And those are the level 1s are the undergraduate seniors, or individuals with bachelor's degrees that have never had any graduate study. The level 4 returning graduates that have greater than 2-year interruption, and they do not have the terminal degree. So those two levels can apply as many times as they remain in those levels. We have our level 2 and our level 3. Our level 2s are first year graduate students, or they're currently enrolled in the BS/MS programs. And the second year graduate students with less than 1 year completed in their first graduate degree program. The application component has several parts. There's the personal profile part, which is kind of like the applicant's background, their graduate research plan, their personal relevant background and future goal statement, their transcripts, and 2 to 3 letters of reference. We accept applications with only 2 letters of reference, but if there are at least 3, the reviewers will see all 3. There are many benefits to being our GRF. Some of those benefits is that the fellowship, so it's awarded to an individual, even though it's paid through the academic graduate institution. It's flexible, so the fellows are able to choose their project, their advisor, and their graduate program. It's unrestricted, so again, there's no service requirement after completion, and it's portable. So, for example, if a fellow is at one institution and change institutions, maybe they completed their master's degree in 1 or 2 years and they have another year funding, they change institutions, they can take the GRF with them. This presentation, as I mentioned before, has the details about the benefits as well as those subfields of study. The deadlines traditionally in October. The point on this is that there are different deadlines depending on the field of study. So life sciences and engineering, for example, last year, had a different deadline. Those deadlines will be updated on the website and on the latest solicitation. Reviewers are important, as I mentioned before, because reviewers provide a comprehensive review of the application, meaning we're looking and asking reviewers to look for the overall applicant. So look at the entire package. So you're looking at the applicant's potential for significant achievement, using a comprehensive, holistic approach to make a balanced consideration of all components. That includes plans for the future, as well as service activities, experiences, and what individuals have been able to accomplish with what they have been provided. And as I mentioned before, the need for reference letter writers. Reference writers strengthen those applications. They reference letters in the 2-page limit, PDF profile, standard size, professional letterhead, and all these things are actually on our GRF information site, as well as a lot of other resources for applicants. And for reference letter writers and for reviewers, for example, we give webinars to reference letter writers and reviewers. And I guess we're holding for questions. And this is our information. Again, the site is full of resources for reviewers, applicants, reference letter writers. It has our events. We generally have outreach events, some by request, but we also try to schedule some between throughout the year. So if you need any additional information or just have general questions, we have a whole team ready to answer those questions. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Margaret Halmarson. I'm in the Directorate for STEM Education, and I'll give you just a quick overview about CAREER, which is our program for early career researchers in tenure track or tenure track equivalent positions. So an important feature of CAREER is that it's a foundation-wide activity, so every single directorate funds career projects. And it's designed to, support people in their first period of their work as scholars with a balanced part of research and also a focus on educational integration. Important documents you need to look at are the Proposal and Award Policies and Procedures Guide. That gives you all the instructions for every single NSF proposal, the career solicitation specifically, and then you need to identify the solicitation for the program you would like to fund it. So CAREER doesn't have its own money. It's funded by our other programs. So you'll need to match up your interests with one of the regularly funded programs. The due date is the end of July. That due date's fairly stable. You need a minimum of $400,000, and that's unusual. So look at recent career awards in your area of interest to see what sort of a typical budget is, if you're wondering what a typical budget is. And then it's a 5-year project. If you're at a university, you can apply. If you're at a nonprofit or non-academic organization, you can also apply. In terms of investigators, you just need to hold a doctoral degree. There's no requirements about years since PhD. The only important piece is that you're untenured and that you're in at least a 50% tenure track position as an assistant professor or something that's tenure track equivalent. And the solicitation talks about tenure track equivalency. An important piece to submit related to your position is the department letter. So you'll need this from your department chair or your supervisor or your dean. It just confirms for us that you're eligible. It's your institution saying, yes, this person is early career. They are an assistant professor. This is how the department is going to support them in doing this project. It's not a letter of reference. We know your department chair thinks you're amazing. We want them to tell us what they're going to do to help you carry out this project. So the big pieces that it needs is a compelling research plan, and then an innovative and feasible education plan. So it has this educational integration. So that could be things like, how are you integrating this with your courses that you're teaching? How are you mentoring doctoral students? Are you working with a nonprofit organization or some other kind of partner organization to get your research out there to other people? This is a little overview of the STEM Education Directorate, and each of these divisions in our directorate does fund it. If you're interested in research in a different directorate, there's contacts for that on the NSF career webpage. And some of my colleagues are here and could point you to which of their colleagues are the career contacts for their division. I'll just pop my email address up there, and I'm happy to talk to people. We talk to people all the time about their program. We know there's a confusing array of NSF programs, so if you have an idea and you want to know where it fits, don't be afraid to reach out to a program officer to get some guidance about what the best match is for the topic that you're thinking about. And I'm happy to share these slides with more detail with anybody.
So next we're going to have Jeremy Wojak, and he is going to talk about postdoctoral research fellowships in biology. Excellent, thank you.
All right, good morning, everybody. A colleague and I are here to talk about programs in the biology directorate. So if there are any biologists in the house, you might look up, and if you have any biology colleagues, maybe take some notes and bring some wisdom back to them, which they'll very much appreciate. Biology is divided into 4 divisions that span the range from the molecular to the ecosystem, and there's a 3rd division that focuses on infrastructure, whether that's physical infrastructure or human infrastructure. And so if you're in the biology realm, the first task is to sort of navigate towards the division that fits your research. As you're sort of navigating the landscape at NSF and thinking about where your research fits, one aspect of that is topic, right? And there are programs that are aligned to specific research topics and agendas, but there are also programs that are focused more on the people, on the individual and their career stage. This is true in biology, and it's true across many aspects of NSF. So there are programs for post-baccalaureates. There are programs for postdocs, graduate fellowships. There are programs for new faculty, for mid-career faculty. And so as you look at the NSF landscape, think about your research topic, but also think about your current career stage, the career stage of the people that you mentor, the people that are in your courses, and look for opportunities in both of those aspects. One relatively new program, again, if there are any biologists in the house or you have colleagues back at home, this is something worth noting. There's a program called Building Research Capacity of New Faculty, and it targets faculty in their first 3 years at primarily undergraduate institutions, minority-serving institutions, master's institutions, and so forth. The goal is to provide the support that those new faculty need to launch their research careers, particularly at institutions that often don't have the resources to support faculty in the same way that R1 institutions do. The next window for submissions is in June, but again, if you're an early career biologist or have colleagues or can take this to the biology department chair, this is a great new launch pad for those that sort of critical career stage where you're launching and you're trying to get off to a good start. At this point, I think I'll hand off to my colleague.
Thanks, Jeremy. I'm Matt Herron. I'm a rotating program officer in the Division of Biological Infrastructure, so I work on the postdoc fellowship program as well as the biological collections program and another program called Integrative Research in Biology that sort of spans the other divisions in bio. So this is just a listing. There's actually quite a few of us now working in the postdoc fellowship program, PRFB, Postdoctoral Research Fellowships in Biology. I'm going to use that acronym a lot. So these are awards that are intended to support the independent research and training of recent recipients of the doctoral degree and to foster human resource development in biology. Fellowships are really intended to provide active mentoring of the fellows. So both the research and the training components of the applications are evaluated, and both are important. There will be a letter from the sponsoring scientists, and that's also an important part of the evaluation. It needs to give evidence that there's going to be a significant opportunity to broaden the research focus and training of the applicant. Proposals, like any proposal at NSF, needs to address both intellectual merit and broader impacts. I know I didn't explain what these areas 1, 2, and 3 are, but I will get to that on this slide. So there's been a recent increase in the amount of these awards. They are now $60,000 per year as a stipend. It's basically salary. And then there's a $20,000 a year research allowance, which actually is a lot broader than research money. You can use that for a lot of things, including things like fringe benefits, health insurance, retirement even. It's a pretty flexible amount of money, but it is a fixed pot of money. It's $20,000 a year. Another recent change to this program is that most of these awards used to be 2 years. Now they're all 3 years. These are only open to U.S. citizens, nationals, and permanent residents. That basically means green card holders. And the window of when you can apply, you do not have to have a PhD to apply. You have to have a PhD to start your fellowship. So it's really basically intended for people in their last year of their PhD or basically their first year of a postdoc. The rule is actually 15 months, less than 15 months in any position that requires a PhD. So mostly that's going to be first-year postdocs, stretches a little bit into second-year postdocs. Okay, I said that. You have to have a PhD before you start. You cannot submit the same project to another fellowship opportunity at NSF. You actually can submit the same project. For example, if you wanted to submit it to another government agency like NIH or USDA as appropriate, you can do that. All right, so I promised I'd talk about the different areas. Right now there are 3 what we call, what do we call them, competitive areas within this program. This does change now and then. We don't expect it to change this year, but I can't promise that these will be the same 3 competitive areas that will be around 5 years from now. Area 1 is broadening participation of groups underrepresented in biology. These applications are evaluated in addition to intellectual merit and broader impacts for activities that broaden participation specifically at the postdoctoral level. Area 2 is what we call the rules of life for short. This is looking for projects that span multiple subdisciplines of biology, that span different organizational levels. So for example, from the molecular to the cellular to the organismal, even the ecosystem and biosphere level. And the plant genome, what we call a PGRP, Plant Genome Research Program. Area 3 is actually handled in a different division. That's handled in the Division of Integrative Organismal Systems. Collectively, these fellowships are available to anyone who does research in any area that's supported by NSF Bio. That does not include biomedical research. If you have a question about, really if you have any question about these about this program, feel free to talk to me or another program officer in the program. Specifically, if you have questions about whether your research is too biomedical for this program, definitely talk to a program officer before you take the time to write up an application. They can have broader impacts that relate to human health, but the main focus should not be biomedical. Okay, I already said the rest of that. All right, that's it for me. And I'll stick around to answer questions. I'll also be here at the next session.
So my name is Suleiman Diallo. I'm a program officer at the National Science Foundation in the Mathematical and Physical Sciences Directorate, more specifically in the Division of Material Research. I'm currently in the National Facility and Instrument Group, but I'm also the current chair for the Broadening Participation Working Group in MPS, which looks at all broadening participation effort within MPS. And as part of that group, their recent program that we developed with my colleagues, and that's been endorsed by the directorate. And I'm going to show you here through this single slide that at NSF, generally speaking, just like my colleague that preceded me, we are intentional in broadening participation. There are NSF-wide programs like the career that was presented, but also within the different directorate, there are specific programs, just like it was shown in bio and MPS here, for our specific communities. And so it's a multi-pronged approach that we do across the academic sort of pathways. If you look at this here, we intervene from an MPS from the high school level up to the established faculty level. But I'm going to talk specifically about two programs, like she said, but maybe also advertise another one. There are these partnership programs that are within MPS. The long-standing one is called the Partnership Research and Education in Material, the PREM program, which have had some really good successes, a good impact to the point where it's been now extended to other divisions in MPS. So the PREC program, which is new, the Partnership Research Education in Chemistry. There's a PREP program in physics. Physics here, for those that know, I'm talking about AMO and so on. And also we have in astronomy the PAR program, and the math also has a new program that's about to be launched. It's also going to be kind of similar. So it's to build capacity at minority serving institution in MPS field. So let me move on here in the interest of time. And so the two new MPS-wide program, and again here, your research area has to align with one of the MPS program to be eligible. And so the first one is the LEAPS launching early career in the mathematical physical sciences, LEAPS MPS, and it's really intended for pre-tenure faculty. There is no time, 3 years, 4 years, but it's so long as you are on the tenure track, but you're not yet tenure. So this actually talk is useful also for senior faculty for mentoring untenured faculty, and also to give advice to their students. So this is the third year in making, and I'll show you some numbers on that. For the current competition just closed up, and we're in the process of looking at what we receive, and it's $250,000 for 2 years. There's some flexibility where you can extend it to 3 years if you so choose, but typically it's $125K a year for 2 years for that, to put you in a position that you can compete for other competitive solicitation at NSF. The postdoctoral one is also listed here. It's very generous. It's 100K, 70K stipend, 30K for fringe benefit, very similar to what my colleague showed in the bio. For LEAPS particularly, our intent here is to increase capacity at minority serving institution and PUIs and R2 institution, sort of emerging institution. That is the intent. However, it's not an eligibility criteria to be from those institutions. So we welcome application for other places that can articulate, can respond to the solicitation requirements. And I'll show you one specific requirement that's in the solicitation that needs to be addressed. It's a review criteria beyond the broader impact and the intellectual merit that we typically look at. So I said this already. And so this is one criteria. We called it impact statement. And so in addition, this is solicitation specific criteria. You need to articulate in a separate supplemental document the impact. There are 3 questions that you need to address. Sort of how is proposal going to increase participation of scientists from your institution, but also the proposer, the PI himself, career. So these are really important, and they're looked at very, very carefully in making recommendation for those ones. So this is up to 3 pages, that impact statement, and these are the 3 questions. So the impact on the institution, the career of the faculty, like I said, but more generally at that institution, that PI can serve as a role model to others. So those are 3 key criteria in the LEAPS competition. And just to close up here, this is, like I said, it's the 3rd year in making. We have the 2nd cohort that we last year, but we are also doing some external mentoring. We're building a cohort within those PIs. So it's not just funding them, but we also want them to build a network among themselves to be the next leaders going forward. Some division, some program will choose. So this program is funded primarily within a what we call Office of Multidisciplinary Activity within MPS. However, the program can choose to fund program that are not proposals that are not funded by that part of money. And so just to close here, there's also the postdoctoral fellowship, similar to what my colleague showed in bio. It's between 12 to 36 months, 100K a year. And then we have, again, we had 2 cohorts. The 3rd competition is currently ongoing, and roughly it's about 30 awards a year. And typically in the summer through early fall is when the appointments start. One key point is that the postdoctoral fellowship require U.S. citizenship. However, the LEAPS program does not, the current one does not require U.S. citizenship for the PI. And the reason being is that there are data that shows that a lot of minority serving institutions rely on non-U.S. citizen faculty. And so if our intent is to invest in the institution, then we opened up that door a little bit. So just so you know. All right, well, thank you for listening. These are some contacts for you.
Excellent, thank you, Suleiman. We're gonna change gears here in just a second. Those were all NSF opportunities. The National Science Foundation is providing funding, obviously, for undergrad, grad, doctoral, postdoctoral, and early career. So keep that in mind. I know there are people from all across the spectrum in their career right now. I'm going to just do one plug. I've been talking about this in other sessions, but in case you missed it, the CREST PRP is a brand new program. It's the evolution of what used to be called the CREST PRF. So the PRP is in its own solicitation, just published, 23-555. It funds postdocs to work at CREST centers. CREST centers are across the country. It's a $70,000 stipend and a $15,000 research allowance. I am the person running that new program, so if you need to speak to me, I'll be here. And now we're going to start with two different programs from our colleagues at the National Institutes of Health. And beginning with Dorit Zook. Thank you.
So hi, I'm Dorit Zook. I'm the Deputy Director of the National Institute of General Medical Sciences, fondly known as NIGMS, at the National Institutes of Health. And my colleague, Cedilla Blatch, who's a program officer in both our training, workforce development and diversity division, and one of our research divisions, with a long name that I won't say, is here with me, and she's going to answer all the questions. So when thinking about what to do in 10 minutes about NIH and NIGMS, I figured what we figured we'd do is just put together a list of really helpful links without telling you too much information right here. But the idea is hopefully you'll be able to get the slides, go look at what's on the various websites, at the links that we give you, look at the various opportunities, and then contact a program officer, and I'll show you how to contact a program officer to ask for more information. And if you have colleagues, friends, or colleagues who are not necessarily friends, but who work in the biomedical space, and very broadly, chemical biology, etc., please share these resources with them as well. So first of all, NIH and NSF are similar in many ways, the kind of science we fund, but we're also very, very different. NIH has 27 institutes and centers, of which NIGMS is one. 24 of them make grant awards, and each one has its own mission and funding policy. So here's a link to a website that has all the websites on it, and you can go look at them. We have a website called Report or Reporter, which presents all the funded research funded by NIH. And it has this nifty tool, which I talked about yesterday, called Matchmaker, which you can plug in a description of your research, and it'll pull up the 100 closest funded grants, tell you which institute or center funded them and which program officer handled those grants. So you can find both ideas for colleagues you can talk to, but also who you should talk to at NIH that works, that handles research in your area. All NIH funding opportunities and notices are published in something called the NIH Guide to Grants and Contracts. It's not published in the Federal Register or any other place. So here's a link to the NIH Guide to Grants and Contracts, but as I said yesterday, if you take one thing away from this, subscribe to the weekly table of contents, because then you can learn what NIH is doing. Read the email. There's no osmosis with emails. So, and then if you want to figure out how NIH works, there's a very nice funding tutorial on the NIH Office of Director website that explains all the steps you need to go through. So again, that's getting to know NIH in general. So at NIGMS, NIGMS, aside from our mission to fund fundamental biological research and some few clinical areas, we also have a mission to train the next generation of the biomedical research workforce, increase diversity in the workforce, and build research capacity. NIGMS funds more than 50% of students on training grants across all of NIH. So we have a lot of programs in the training, workforce development, and diversity area. at all levels, from post-baccalaureate all the way to early career. Instead of going through them, we did some of that yesterday. I just put the various, the links on, go, explore. Every website has a contact on it of a program officer you can contact to ask for more information. We have programs that are of interest to early faculty. NIH has this definition of early stage investigator, which is someone who is within 10 years of their terminal degree and has not received a major independent NIH research grant. And at NIH, during the review process, there's special criteria for, they get reviewed separately from independent, and many institutes and centers have a different funding strategy policy for ESIs. So if you're an ESI, take advantage of these. There are specific programs that for ESIs, including at NIGMS, our MIRA, or Maximizing Investigators Research Award. Again, learn about it. It has a very high success rate, over 40%. So if you're eligible and you do research within the NIGMS mission, contact a program officer, see if you can apply for an ESI MIRA. We have awards that are not necessarily for early faculty, but are for educational institutions that have not been major recipients of NIH support. There's a NIH-wide one called the Area Award. We talked about it yesterday, the R15. And then the SURE Award, which is for minority serving institutions. And there's some people here who've told me they have SURE Awards. It's worth finding out more about those. As I said, one of our three major missions is to build capacity around the country. And so we have a division for research capacity building, which supports research, faculty development, training, et cetera, in states where levels of NIH research funding have historically been low. This is called the IDEA program, and it's similar but not identical to the NSF EPSCoR program. Somehow the EPSCoR includes the US Virgin Islands and IDEA doesn't, which makes me mad because I like the Virgin Islands. We have programs, and we are going to have more programs that are meant for Native American and Alaska Native tribal organizations, and it's worth, if you affiliated with those kind of organizations or colleges, it's worth monitoring what we're doing, because we're actually launching 4 new programs in this space over the next couple years. Talked about SURE. NIGMS runs the only program at NIH that funds research and programs for K through 12, and educational programs for K through 12. It's called SEPA, so check that out. And if you're interested in education at the high school or K through 12 level, check out the SEPA program. And then we have a small business program in IDEA states. And again, here's the website, go take a look. So I said I'd tell you how to find a program officer. So one way, I told you already, if you go to Report or Reporter and you click on the Matchmaker tool, you'll get a list of program officers around NIH who handle research that's similar to yours. I will say this tool, all tools, are just sending you in the right direction. Always follow up. And I gave you the example yesterday, but I'll give it again. Let's say you do research on some sort of kidney disease, but you do very basic research on that kidney disease, and you're looking at a transcription factor. So you have a lot of information about the transcription factors in your abstract, but really what you're working on is that kidney disease. Matchmaker might pull up NIGMS because we do basic transcription, but the research could actually be more appropriate for the National Institute of Diabetes and Kidney Disease, NIDDK. So you do have to follow up with the program officers that come up in Matchmaker and ask them for more information. Send them that same paragraph you put into Matchmaker. Specifically at NIGMS, we also have this nifty website called Contacts by Research Area, which has little descriptions, and yes, I use Sedella as the example, little descriptions of all our portfolios with a link to the bio and an email of the program officer that handles that area. So if you go to that website and you browse among our different divisions and browse among the different portfolios, see one that describes research that's similar to what you're doing, that's the person you should contact. And if you contact someone and then you're not exactly right, that's okay. We send these things around. And if you contact me, I'll send it around too. So go for it. And the final thing I'm going to say is stay connected with us. We have a blog where we put out a lot of information. You can follow us on LinkedIn. But I'll say it again, best thing to do is to sign up for the NIH Guide for Grants and Contracts Table of Contents, which comes out every Friday. That's how I know the week is over. And you can see what every solicitation that NIH puts out and every notice about those solicitations goes in through the NIH Guide. So thank you.
Thank you, Dorit. And now we'll have one more presentation before our Q&A, and that's Renee Sterling, also from the National Institutes of Health.
Is that coming up? Great. So I'm at the National Human Genome Research Institute, one of the 24 that Dorit mentioned awards grants. Today I'm going to be presenting some slides that are also have input from Lucia Hindorf, who is the training team lead for NHGRI. She's here at the meeting and will be available at the afternoon session as well for those of you who may have more detailed questions. So the vision of the Genome Institute is to improve the health of humans through advances in genomic research. We seek to accelerate scientific and biomedical breakthroughs. And recently, we published a strategic vision for improving human health at the forefront of genomics, which is available on our genome.gov website. There's also a publication. As I go through these slides, feel free to take pictures. I'm also happy to mail a copy to anyone interested. NHGRI has a number of scientific areas of emphasis, and similar to NIGMS, if you go to this landing page here on the slide, you would be able to read more about each of these scientific areas and also find a link to the program director who is responsible for that area. I really do want to emphasize the importance of reaching out to program directors about your area of interest. And I think many program directors find this one-on-one engagement with applicants to be one of the more rewarding aspects of the job. I'm a program director with the Ethical, Legal, and Social Implications research program, which is relatively unique within NIH. It actually has a congressional mandate that 5% of all extramural research funds awarded by the Genome Institute would go toward looking at ELSI issues. Here's another important landing page on our site. It presents links to our different funding opportunities, and they're grouped into categories. So we have funding that is targeting workforce diversity efforts, new and early stage investigators, research training. You'll also find a link to program, and I don't think you're seeing my my cursor there, but program guidance to potential applicants for NHGRI support. And just adding to what Dorit had said about reaching out to program directors, another opportunity that's available to all NIH applicants is to actually send a 1 to 2 page draft of study aims that you are interested in and considering for your research. You can get feedback on whether it truly falls into the scope of the Institute, whether it meets its research priorities. You can get clarity on grantsmanship and your writing up of your aims. And it's also an opportunity to ask questions about the funding process. So I encourage you to explore the links here. There has been a lot of movement around workforce diversity. And for those of you who may not have seen NIH's statement of interest in diversity, it does note the importance of a diverse workforce across biomedical, clinical, behavioral, and social science fields, and acknowledges that NIH's success is really dependent on having talented scientists from a broad array of lived experiences. This statement goes beyond just an interest in race and ethnicity. It also highlights the importance of bringing people with disabilities or from disadvantaged backgrounds into the biomedical space, and also women who may be underrepresented in biomedical fields. So with that, let's take a look at a few funding opportunities. My colleagues showed slides similar to this, and I realize the font here is very small. It's largely for illustration, but let me just take a moment to walk through. Down the first column are different funding opportunities that NHGRI is lead for or has actually signed on to. And this is an important thing to confirm when you're looking at funding opportunities from the NIH. A funding opportunity may be published or released by a specific institute, but other institutes will sign on to it, indicating their interest in supporting grants under that opportunity. The first one that's listed there is actually NIGMS's SEPA program that Dorit had mentioned. NHGRI is a partner on that. So going down the first column again are opportunities, and across the top are the various career stages. And the NHGRI training team really does strive, as other presenters have mentioned, to offer funding opportunities across these various career stages. And so we encourage you to take a look at our training opportunities page. The link is at the you may not be able to see that link very well at the bottom of the slide there, but if you Googled NHGRI funding opportunities, training and career development, you would get to the page which highlights the details of each of these activities. So I'll point out just a few. I want to make sure we have time for questions. The genome research experiences to attract talented undergraduates into genomic fields to promote diversity is one of our newer programs. This is, again, targeting undergraduate students, and it is for an institution. You can find on the NHGRI website the institutions who are recipients of research training opportunities. That's another important way to connect with NHGRI programs and receive training and career development. For investigators who have active grants, institutions can apply for supplements to promote diversity. These would be mentored research experiences that are within the scope of the grant, and a trainee can come on to a research supplement and have an opportunity to engage in mentored research. And finally, diversity action plans are a long-standing program. We anticipate it being renewed in the near future, and the goal is to expose students at various stages to foundational sciences in genomics in hopes that they will pursue genomic careers. At the individual level, just highlighting here that NHGRI also offers opportunities for pre-docs, pre-doc to postdoc transitions, and also transitions into permanent careers. Again, with each of these having a workforce diversity emphasis. In regard to the first one, the parent F31, some of you may be familiar that NIH opportunities are tied to specific activity codes. These activity codes indicate whether the program is for training, career development, research, multi-project programs. So the activity code on a funding opportunity is often a good sign, is a useful indicator for what sort of activity is being conducted. We are signed on to this NIH parent grant for predoctoral fellowships, and in addition, as well as other ICs. And so that, again, that's another place where you're wanting to confirm IC sign-on. In regard to individual awards for research, NHGRI offers opportunities that are focused on particular scientific areas. So the first one here is an example where we are working to promote workforce diversity in genomics, bioinformatics, bioengineering, and biomedical imaging research. The second one, supporting talented early career researchers, is an opportunity that spans our scientific area, as the scientific areas at NHGRI. And so there really are a broad array of opportunities. I have a flyer here that was going around that sort of unpacks the NIH activity codes and some of the NHGRI specific opportunities for you to have a look at. For those of you who are joining us remotely, I'm happy to email this to you, the flyer to you, or the slides. My contact information is here, along with Lucia Hindorf. And at this afternoon's session at 2 p.m. for the informal meetings, my NHGRI colleagues Renee Ryder and Wynn Park will be available to have one-on-one conversations with anyone who's interested. Thanks very much.
All right. I want to thank everyone who made a presentation. We only have 5 minutes left, but the good news is the next session, many of these people will be there. It's in the cabinet room just up the stairs and down at the hall, and you can speak with them one-on-one if you have additional questions that we don't have time for now, okay? So, anybody want to ask a question? Please. Correct. For many of these programs, yes. Okay, I'm going to say in my case, in the CREST, you cannot change institutions without pre-approval from NSF, but other people may have a different answer for their programs. Okay, so if you want to speak with them, she has kindly volunteered to come to the next session if you want to come and talk to her one-on-one. All right? Anybody else have a question?
I have one quick question for the PRP. So students in the final year of their PhD, so like they know like they are going to depend in next 3-4 months, can they apply for the PRP?
Yes. Is that a good answer? For that, my program. I don't know what the other programs would say, but yes. Okay. Anyone else have a question? We're not getting any. I have not seen any questions online. Has anybody seen them? Because they're not coming through on my app. Okay. Go ahead, ask a question.
Let's say in our institution we do not have CREST center, but can I apply the fellowship and allow my postdoc to work in that CREST, some other CREST center? We collaborate that way. Is that possible?
So the postdoc who applies as an individual, although in the new program those awards are then transferred to the institution, just so you know, that's a big change in the new solicitation. They have to identify a sponsoring scientist at a CREST center and negotiate with them and say, I would like to come and work with you, because that person has to write a letter that says they'll support that postdoc and they will mentor them. So they have to create a mentoring plan as well. So If you have a postdoc who's interested in working at a center, they should be working with that scientist to negotiate that before they apply. Does that make sense? All right. Any other questions? I'd be happy to speak with you later if you want more information. All right. Yes. No other questions. Lots of opportunities out there. So many opportunities. I hope you will take advantage of speaking with all of these people while they're here. It's so much easier when they're right here. And we're all going to move to the cabinet room for our next session. The cabinet room is just up the steps and down the hall. It's a smaller room, a little more intimate setting. Okay? I thank you all for coming and for your patience in our tech setup. All right.